Um, Aluminium, if you look at the material ratio, to generate 1 ton of aluminium, you actually waste or generate 10 tons of waste. Alumina plant incidentally can be described as a red mud plant, which incidentally manufactures aluminium as a product, because the amount of red mud and other waste you generate are significantly higher than the amount of aluminium that you generate. So it's a red mud plant with aluminium as a byproduct, if we can describe it in that particular way. Aluminium definitely helps in terms of electricity conduction. It is preferred material in terms of conductivity. At the same time, the amount of power that aluminium consumes um, in a generation is significantly higher than most metals. We talked about, Dr. Gokhale talked about the increase in the packaging. Pandemic has actually made people think about using everything untouched by hand. So packaging has become important. Everything that you get today is packed. At the same time, there is a phenomenal pressure on sustainability, generating less and less waste. And therefore, as I started, no discussion today can happen on any subject without a reference to the pandemic and a reference to climate change. We know about how the automobile usage is going up. We know about how um, the automobile, the electric vehicles are coming up. At the same time, through the pandemic and through the change way of working, the amount of travel that you have, road travel, that has gone down. If you look at how much you have traveled, either by car or public transport or even planes, it has come down significantly as a part of the pandemic. So we have better or greener cars, greener vehicles, and the need for transportation has come down. The concept of work from home has gone up, and it is likely to continue in many cases. I know there are companies in US which are asking their people to work from home for at least half the week, 2 days or 3 days every week, and see how it can be done. That will define what we call as home. Our home, it is a living room. After your office work, it is a part of it. It becomes an office for some time. And the same thing is likely to continue. Now, all of this actually poses a phenomenal opportunity to aluminium and a phenomenal challenge, because what you do has to be done in a way which is climate friendly, sustainable, and had to address the newer way of working. Now, with this concept, with background, we will start the discussion on um, what is the future of aluminum industry in India. And we have people across the value chain for aluminum. We have people like Mr. Anil Kulkarni, who is working at the downstream, making aluminum components and other components for the automobile industry. We have Mr. Day, who is looking at the corporate planning and strategic management for NALCO, who will look at the entire value chain. We have people like Mr. Rajat Agarwal from the Bhoruko Extrusion, who actually will be again talking about the downstream. We have Dr. Vilas Tathwadkar, who heads the metal research in Aditya Birla Science and Technology Company and works very closely with Hindalco. And we have Mr. Chauhan, who is from Jawaharlal Nehru Research Development and Design Center, which actually generates technologies and provide technologies to the entire aluminum value chain. Now, all these people, I'm sure, have faced their own businesses and their own work areas in the context of climate change and pandemic, which is going to define the way of working in the future. So I will like to start by asking about what were the key challenges which you had not seen earlier and which you are now seeing for aluminium in the post-pandemic world or today's world. today's world, as I said, in the context of business growth, the climate change, and the pandemic. And if you want to add any other factor which redefines our way of working, please talk about it. So I would like to start with Mr. Day, who looks at the corporate planning and strategic management for NALCO. Mr. Day? Mr. Day, are you there? Hello?
Yes, I am there.
Yeah, please. So I'd like to know from you and others, what are the key challenges that you notice will redefine the way aluminum business will work, aluminum manufacturing will work, now that we have the world getting redefined, the way of working getting redefined. You can define it in the context of the challenges. Over to Mr. Day.
You mean I should speak on that?
Yeah, please. The way we are going to conduct this session, the panel discussion is, we'll take a question and seek the opinions from all the 5 panel members and then go over to another question.
Okay. Please repeat the question, please.
Actually, Mr. Day has been the last minute addition because his Mr. Mishra, who was supposed to come, had some
Just ask me the question again.
So I had not a chance to talk to you earlier.
Yeah. May I know the question, please?
You want to know? See, as I said, the
Your
way of
voice is-
working. I'm sorry, you are getting me or not getting me?
You are getting my voice?
Very clear.
Okay, please carry on.
I want to know what are the new challenges or the key challenges that you have faced for the aluminum business with this new way of working. The way of working which is defined by the pandemic, defined by the challenges of climate change and the opportunities that have come along in the last couple of years.
Okay.
What do you see as the new challenges for aluminum business? Yeah.
Actually, the pandemic has thrown really a great challenge, a new challenge, no doubt, but a great challenge to industries as a whole. And moreover, any industry which is working with people in cluster has to have a different approach in handling inside the plant premises. Because as you know, in plant premises, people cannot have social distance always to work with. Our initial reactions were based on the guidelines issued by government, but we followed a very strict regime. Actually, entering the plant, people have to be screened, entry point has to be screened, and in the townships also we monitored closely because people are residing in a closed township. So entry and exit of the township was also restricted. Because once people go out and catch the infection, they will infect the township also. So entry exit to the township and to the plant was very closely monitored, and people got infected. Quarantine of small flats and areas, zones were carried out very strictly, and wherever possible, the group activities were staggered so that people contact questions of coming closer reduces as much as possible. But still then NALCO people got infected. In fact, we lost 40 of our workmen during the COVID. And you can imagine 500 plus people got infected, and that total strength being around 10 to 12,000. That was one of the reasons. Second is the vaccination and the hygienic components were taken up on priority. So we provided people with free sanitizers.
Mr. Day, can I interrupt you a little bit? We are not really asking about how you or NALCO handle the pandemic, but in the context, the pandemic has redefined the way of working. pandemic has made sustainability important. It has made remote working important. It
Yeah,
has
remote working,
made new volumes important.
yeah, remote
Additional,
working.
yeah.
I'm also coming to
So
it
for
for
aluminum, how do you see the way of working will change? What opportunities and what challenges do you see?
yeah, remote working in the plant premises. Remote working cannot be there because people have to be there in near the pot lines, near the control rooms. So that you cannot avoid. But for corporate office, for our regional marketing offices, we totally switched over to working from home wherever possible, and non-critical systems we tried that. Another part is supply chain and material marketing and transportation. That was a great disruption also initially. That has to be looked into in a different way. Wherever possible, outsourcing was carried out through quick finalization of contracts, so that this doesn't affect our day-to-day operation. But even then, in case of where there was a need for foreign experts or experts from other states, where there is stoppages of movement in and out, those things have to be shelved off, as well as the clearance for people movement that was affected, in fact. So we could reach our 95-96% of the target in the pandemic year, I think last year, because we couldn't reach our 100% target because initially it affected us, and we are not that prepared with the situation to know the guidelines how to be implemented in a quick succession. It took time, but still then state government was very helpful in this nature, that they didn't ask to stop or go for reduction in production in any of the metal industries, because they very well knew that they are the revenue generators. The revenue of the state is also important from mining royalty and production sales. So they allowed this, but this has an effect on the day-to-day operation, and it was a like a war footing system. We have to correct ourselves during the outcomes that day-to-day coming out from the impact of the pandemic. And now somehow other in the second wave, we have really streamlined it. It is no more a war situation. We have put things in place so that it moves in and around in a perfect manner. We established our own COVID care system. State hospitals were funded by NALCO, so that our people in and around the periphery and the villages in and around get all the required treatment and quarantine facility, so that they do not infect our people staying in and around those places. So this was the approach.
Okay. Mr. Kulkarni, you are from downstream industry,
Yes,
and
please.
I know that your major clients are auto industry. Now, the worldwide, the auto industry itself is getting redefined. There is pressure on sustainability, which will actually demand things like lightweighting and also electric cars. Do you see what are the challenges you see for casting industry or downstream industry general with this new way of working, with these new challenges?
I suppose this pandemics is the one thing. What you are asking is that in the present situation, when the pandemic is practically on the verge of getting over, now how are the things going to be there, as I understand? See, sir, actually, according to me, as far as the automobile sector or the people in the downstream, the industries in downstream like us, have got a very, very huge potential. Now, the question is that this pandemic, as everybody knows, they have declared China as a bad name. And China was the one which was having most of the supplies all over the world, especially in the casting. Now, this has given us a huge opportunity for coming up, and that we can be the next world supplier. but provided that we get up to the expectations. According to me, we are way behind in that. And if the Indian industry or if the casting people like us, if they do not get themselves upgraded, we are likely to miss. That is part one as far as the capability part of it. But basically, as regards to the metal, okay, what was we were not able to understand how Chinese companies are giving at the metal price. Whatever quotations we were giving locally, practically they were matched with the Chinese people, Chinese companies at the raw material price. Now, what is happening that the raw material prices are increasing every month. If you see last 1 year, this is of course a pandemic effect. But what will happen after pandemic effect, we don't know. As Mr. Chand has said, that probably by December, January, they are likely to show the downtrend. But till that time, it has created an havoc in the market as far as the downstream industry is level. See, on an average, practically a company like ours is having a rate contract with our either OEM or with a primary producer, with a rate contract of average of last 3 months is being taken for the current quarter. Now, this is for the first time in this pandemic we have found, and it was with a principle that sometime the prices will increase, sometime they will come down again, and then they will get leveled out, averaged out. But this has not happened. This particular year, if you see right from July, from the day the pandemic, the lockdown was open, the prices have continuously been going up. And as a result, that we have been finding it very, very difficult. And just sharing information with you, one of my customer where I'm giving about 10 to 15% of my electric segment, I have lost 42 lakhs of rupees in the last 12 months. Now, they are not compensated because the OEMs or the corporates, they say that the changes cannot be done so quickly. Now, all these things, if we see, the support from the basic metal also is equally important for us to be more competitive as the world supplier. Yes.
Right. By the way, are we, in terms of making the materials, the technology required for the new type of materials that you may have to make for the upcoming automobile market, are we ready?
Actually, to be very frank with you, we are really not ready. It is, according to me, it is a magnesium which is going to have a huge, and as rightly said, the composites. But then both of these two go out of our purview. As far as that aluminum alloys are concerned, or the different alloys are practically all types of alloys are being handled and they are being effectively given. What we basically lack is in the quality systems, the manufacturing systems, the automation, the digitization, all these things, Industry 4.0. Now, all these things are the one which have come in a big way, but now one has to see how it goes ahead.
Right. I will actually turn to Mr. Rajat Agarwal from Bhoruka. You are there, Mr. Agarwal?
Yes, I'm very much sure.
Yeah. Worldwide, it is seen that extruded aluminum products, they actually occupy a larger percentage of downstream products compared to rolled and others. In India, generally, it has been on a slightly lower percentage. Consumption is not as much. We also saw two things. Number one is there has been a boost for housing, the infrastructure during the pandemic. There has been rate reduction, there have been affordability has improved, and construction projects, number of construction projects have gone up, their economics has also gone up. Second thing that has happened is China, as Mr. Kulkarni said, China has become a bad word. People like to take China with a pinch of salt, Chinese material, Chinese services. I remember one particular case reported a couple of days back that China has revised their pricing for the solar panels significantly upward. and that has affected a number of solar projects, solar power projects in India, and it is being discussed at a very high level. Now, China has become a bad word. Now, for extrusions, which actually caters to everything from automobiles to housing to others, what challenges did you face during the pandemic, and what opportunity do you see?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for making me a part of this panel and for giving me this opportunity to speak. Of course, we heard other speakers on the panel talk about the normal conventional challenges that all of us are aware. But, looking at this challenge from the customer's point of view, the dynamic between us as manufacturers and the customer, of course, there were a lot of challenges relating to cash flow. Right, the customers, payments had dried up, significantly. Cash flow was a major issue. Relating to that, lead time, right? Customers could no longer afford to get the material, as and when they wanted, or manufacturers could not afford to send the material as and when they wanted. Right, customers could open their factories only for 5 days in a month, and number of laborers were also very, very limited. They could not, if prior to the pandemic, let's say a fabricator doing a door window or a structural glazing was calling 20 workers a shift. Now he could call only 10, right? So lead time became very important. At the same time, metal prices was wildly fluctuating. So, how do we as manufacturers hold the metal prices constant became very important. Small things, for example, before, let's say our dispatch tolerance is, plus 10%, on kgs, but because of the pandemic and reduction in cash flow and focus on faster turnaround times, something like dispatch tolerance became very, very important during discussions. Weight per meter of the profile. So what really happened was all the players throughout the value chain really started taking notice of these characteristics such as lead time, weight per meter, tolerance, which only few players were looking at before. And the pandemic certainly, prompted the customers to get more and more educated and say, okay, they started demanding, perfection, not only in terms of product, but also in terms of service, in terms of delivery, in terms of lead time, in terms of tolerance. And what this led to was, we as manufacturers, the way that we met this demand was through technology. Right, we really had to invest a lot in technology because manually managing all these different variables and keeping all customers happy was not possible. So luckily we had implemented SAP, for example, in 2008. But in the last 2 years since the pandemic, I think more than 50% of our budget has gone to the IT department. Right, so we did invest heavily in technology. We created a lot of online forums, a lot of APIs which connected our existing ERP system with customers. So I think that was one good thing that came out of the challenges, right? The second thing that came out of all the challenges being a downstream player is it gave us an opportunity, not just us, but other players an opportunity to differentiate their product, in characteristics that customers can understand. For example, if you look at a window, the industry talks about, a window should have, air permeability of X and, wind resistance of 1.5 kPa and water permeability of 300 pascals. But these are just terms used by the industry players. When a consumer is buying a home, a consumer is not yet demanding that, in my house, I want a window of 1.5 kPa or I want a window of 300 pascals. But this pandemic again gave us an opportunity to, start using safety, start using ventilation, start creating a noise-free home environment where they can work, live, study, play, right? Lot of products which was not in the general focus of the end consumer started coming into focus because now the consumer was spending more and more time at homes. And like you rightly said, commercial construction did slow down, but I would not say residential construction suddenly increased, but the demand from the consumers certainly increased. So I think this was some of the challenges that we faced. And some of the solutions of how we overcame these challenges. And the most important thing is the opportunities it presented to offer a better product, offer a better service, and enhance the value of a product for the consumers.
Very, very interesting, Mr. Rajat. It is good to see that you or your company actually tried to look at the pandemic as an opportunity and improved certain areas like your IT, new products, and something which will take you definitely much ahead over long terms. One of the things I realized when you were talking was that supply chain and transportation of materials, either raw materials and products, became very important. I also remember one very critical sentence that Mr. K.M. Birla of Aditya Birla Group mentioned. What he said was the pandemic has taught us to become more local in terms of sourcing of our raw materials. And in fact, he went ahead telling that our group henceforth will try to stay away from depending totally on distant raw materials which I have to get from long distance, from distant countries and all that. Bauxite, in case of bauxite, I know that we are reasonably fortunate that we generally have our supply available locally. But there was a mention about importing bauxite. Mr. Nandi mentioned that, Dr. Nandi mentioned that imported bauxite is becoming available and people are going for that. Now, I wanted to know from Dr. Vilas of Hindalco about, are our plants, not only Hindalco, I'm talking of Indian plants in general, are they capable of processing bauxites, which will now be probably different from what they have been processing? Do they have the capability and do they have the technology? And what challenges does it put to the plants in terms of processing materials, whether bauxite or others, in the current situation?
Yeah, thank you.
Dr. Vilas.
Yeah, this is a most critical question, I think. And yes, we have to change our raw material portfolio, and we need to have a more flexibility as far as raw material is concerned. Even for local, we are going to have a lot of variation in bauxite. And really speaking, our plants, if equipment wise or process wise, they are capable. But what is important is we need to optimize our SOPs. We need to rework on our thumb rules, our process controls, which can really help us to adopt the range of raw materials. Otherwise, if we go with the same SOP, we have seen in examples in Belgaum where we imported the raw material and it had a problem initially. It took some time to optimize. So it will be very, very critical to continuously optimize the process to adopt the new raw materials. So with this, I will say pandemic, from R&D point of view, I think it has opened the very important part of the industry. Initially, if you see industry 4.0 is there for a long time, people were thinking about it. It was good to have. In last 1 year, when people were not having direct access to logbooks, to the control rooms, and to their own teams, now it has become, it is must have. If I have no digital logbooks or digital access, it will be very, very difficult for running any plant, or even I should have the digital access to where is my raw material, what is my customer needs, how my so entire supply chain, process control, and the customer requirement, everything has to convert into digital. So pandemic has given us the actually signal that we need to be more and more digitally ready. I think Mr. Rajat has also elaborately told how he has started, and his budget has changed from more heavily towards IT. I think every industry has to go through that. And unfortunately, metal industries are not equipped with a lot of sensors or I'll say the data which is available in other industries. So we need to have more and more our own soft sensors or our own process controls which are converted into digital. And that is how we will be able to adopt range of bauxites or range of the raw materials at each section. So that is what I feel. So more digitalization and more active process control, which can help us to adopt raw materials of different range.
You mentioned the importance of raw material and importance of adopting the processes to the new raw materials which may be coming. I wanted to turn to Dr. Chauhan, who is from JNRDC, and ask him that if aluminium usage in downstream in automobiles is going up, do we have the technologies for post-manufacture service? Like, are the garages ready to process aluminium as a construction material used either for the engines or for the car body, for the chassis? And do we need to do anything in terms of developing technologies available, making materials available, so that as aluminium usage in automobiles downstream goes up, people will not suffer from post-manufacture, post-purchase problems? So is the downstream technology, which you actually handle in JNRDC, how ready it is in the country to support this? Dr. Chauhan?
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah, thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. And just let me thank the organizers for inviting JNRDC to present its views. And here I see that the members present are indeed spearheads of aluminum fraternity, and they are putting up their own views, and it's really great to note that the country is geared to take this aluminum industry into new highs in the post-pandemic, assessing the effect of this pandemic. With regard to the specific question posed to me, like usage of aluminum in automobiles, whether the down the line all the garages or the material supply side or the assembly side, technology side, are we really equipped to support applications of aluminum in the forthcoming automobile technologies, automobile applications? Here, I would like to just quote one incident which we very recently, maybe 4 or 5 months back, we faced. Actually, just would like to share with you that JNARDDC is working in collaboration or say jointly with ARAI, Automobile Research Association of India, and NALCO. We three have made a team and trying to develop one particular component, that is yoke, to be used in the high-end four-wheelers, say sports cars and so on. So we wanted to develop this product, and sponsor is of course our supporter NALCO, and our sponsor NALCO team asked whether we don't have the manufacturing facility, manufacturing capability or technology, or what would be the end use, whether how do you train the the garage guys or to replacement through OEM or all these things. So what we see that we are so far very, very comfortable with the conventional applications of aluminium in the automobile, say it is the engine part or the chassis part or limited casting applications. The moment we say some wrought applications like the yoke or the seat applications or the upcoming for EVs, say battery casings and all those things, we really we are really not ready or with the technology and the support systems. So that is what we are working on, that we have joined hands with ARAI, that initially we too will do the product development, do the demonstration to the industry, and of course subsequently we develop the vendor systems, train them that how do you weld the two different alloys, if it is a yoke which has to be welded to the shaft and all those things. So that is what is the limiting, which I hope the speakers right from the inaugural session and even this panel discussion, everyone has mentioned about, like Mr. Day said, like this pandemic has taught them that experts, even though they are globally available, they are not reachable during this pandemic. Mr. Kulkarni said that yes, there is application of aluminum in automobile, but we have to come up to the expectation, global expectation of the quality. Mr. Agarwal said that the customers are now looking for the quality and tolerances much more as compared to the earlier scenario. And of course, Mr. Vilas said that the sensors and the indigenous work is the requirement of the day. So being from the R&D side, this post-pandemic, what we analyze is like it is putting up a lot many cross-border conflicts, and the resources are not reachable, even if they are available. So few months back, or say 1.5 years back, we used to very proudly say Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, means the whole world is a family. But we see that this phrase Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is not really happening now. Our neighbors are trying to preserve their own resources, and we really need to be local in the sense like whatever we have to build our own system. We have to build strengthen our own system, be it technology, be it the resources, natural resources, everything. And that is what is reflecting everywhere in the system, be it the policy intervention from the government side, be it the resource conservation from the industry side, the new developments from the industry side. But it is really very unfortunate that if you see the contribution of the industry towards this R&D is really it's a pity. And specifically we talk a lot about say indigenization of the process, indigenization of the material, indigenization of technology, but very less attention is paid to the indigenous know-how or indigenous knowledge creation. That is the actually need of the day to tackle all this post-pandemic effect or to survive in this world. So that's all from the Jain IDC side to particular this issue, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. See, one of the important thing that is getting noticed nowadays is impact of climate change, and therefore making sure that your products, your processes, your deliveries are sustainable. And as we said during the inaugural session, it is the younger generation which is demanding that the product should be sustainable. One of the ways in which aluminium industry is getting affected or also seeing the opportunity is what is called as ASI certification. The Aluminium Stewardship Initiative. Many use customers in Europe and now also in US to a large extent are getting closer to demanding ASI certification, knowing what is the environmental impact of your product, what you are delivering. And it is, I personally see it as an opportunity if we improve our processes, improve our system, so that the overall environmental impact of our products is reduced, what we deliver to the customers is reduced, then it helps us get the market. Just to give a further clarity on this, when we talk about aluminum components in an automobile, the environmental impact of these automobiles, of these components, get added up when you get the overall environmental impact factor of the car or the other vehicles. People who actually don't worry so much about the environmental impact during manufacturing or don't try to reduce it, they will have a higher ASI score and will find it difficult to get the credits for their products. I wanted to know from all of you, is ASI something which people are talking about for last more than 5 years, but with impact of sustainability, the ASI importance may go up. Do you see it affecting aluminium in your own product areas, whether extrusions, whether cast components, and aluminium primary in general? And are there things happening to ensure that the ASI score of aluminium which goes out of India is lower? Is that a way we can win over China in some way? I just wanted to know from, especially from the downstream people and primary aluminium from Nalco, about what the thoughts are. So may I request Mr. Day for his views?
Yeah, thank you.
Is it something which is touching us already? Is it something which you see as an opportunity?
Basically, this all are starting from climate change initiative. If you see, all these are jargons that are coming up for carbon tax and this ASI. All these are starting from climate change initiative. And earlier, the panel told the young generations are more sensitive about these issues. No
Just
doubt.
one point. See, there was a time when people had CDM, the Clean Development Mechanism. There were CERs, that is the carbon credits, and carbon credits were actually priced very high, $25 per CR and all that. Many projects were started and then they collapsed because CR prices came down from 25 to $1.
Yeah.
So, do you see CR or ASI certification as an opportunity? It is something which you people are working on?
Yeah. But basically, what we think in primary aluminium, the technology has to be more specific for reduction of DC energy, and moreover from energy that is sourced from coal. In India and China, you will find that most of the aluminium producers are driven by coal energy. So the carbon emission level is high, and that will naturally push us to the corner. And as you know, recently there has been a development about carbon tax. Russia, Europe are thinking of carbon tax, where it may be around $50 to $100 more if you want to import aluminum to these countries. So the ASI and any climate issues is going to stay. But unfortunately, India, we do not have a situation where we can buy renewable energy in a bulk manner or in a sustainable manner. That ecosystem has not developed. We may have developed not many renewable energy installations of gigawatts, but if you ask the industry to run on those renewable energy only, I think nobody will agree. Even with stable coal, hydro, and nuclear, our grid systems are utterly dismissal state compared to European and US, if you ask me. Neither the quality of the power, neither the reliability is there. So these are aluminium primary industry cannot run on this scenario. Aluminium primary industry requires high level of reliability, quality, and continuous power. So these ecosystem has not developed and will be in a soup. If you ask me, any initiatives that has come from abroad or the advanced economies, we are, as Mr. Chauhan very correctly told, we are chasing. Here also the same thing what Mr. Chauhan told, I want to tell. That our own knowledge, own systems, we develop only when we are asked to do or we are forced to do. Why we are lagging behind aluminum application? You see, world has 3,000 applications. Advanced economies have 3,000 applications of aluminum. In India, we have 300 applications. Because you see, we do not collaborate. Industry, institutions, design and product development organizations, secondary, tertiary producers will never join. Primary metal producers' job is to sell the primary metal as make profit. Secondary people will be struggling to have their quality production, and we will not see, we will not handle them. That you manufacture, you grow, and from their growth will grow. That approach has not come in India. And you see the European initiative, they have made so many things collaborative. Primary industry, research institute, educational institutes, secondary, tertiary, even customers have joined hands. So if you want to have a climate change or this ASI stewardship certification, this needs collaborative effort. And unless India develop that collaborative efforts, we will be in our own silo and making our best efficiency as possible, but it will not reach that target. Silos will not work now, to be very frank. That is all I want to say.
Mr. Rajat, do you in your business see this as an opportunity or as a problem when you try to export your materials to developed countries? Has the problem of carbon tax or need for ASI certification?
No. Till now, we have not faced these things, but carbon tax is expected to be implemented by 2024 to 26 by various countries which are spearheading the climate change issues. So maybe after 24, we have to pay $50 or $100 more in the market, vis-a-vis other who have better carbon reduction effect. Or you see the global technology of inert carbon is also coming up. So that will have drastic reduction in carbon consumption of smelting technology. So these technologies are only available in the Europe or advanced economies. We have to buy that, paying some money to save our carbon print. So till now we don't have much problem, because this is a place where things which are coming up, and aluminum demand is there. In our Indian scenario also, this has not a issue till now. Suppose domestic selling of metal or manufacture of secondary products who have joined me, they don't feel the heat of the ASI till now. So it will take time. Another 3-4 years we may have to get into that hole.
Thank you, Mr. Dey. In your products, Mr. Rajat Agarwal and also Mr. Anil Kulkarni, do you see this as a, has it touched you? Do you get any demand from your customers that you'll have to specify your carbon footprint, get an ASI certificate, and taking some technology effort in manufacturing to reduce the carbon footprint of your product? Is it likely to help us? I don't know whether it has started becoming a reality, but if we prepare ourselves ahead of time through technology change, technology improvement, will it become USP or differentiating factors? Maybe we'll start with Mr. Kulkarni.
Yes, sir. Actually, as far as this carbon footprint and all that has not yet reached to us. See, our company is we are supplying to all OEMs, all OEM automobiles like Tata, Mahindra, Isuzu, and all those things. So, as it has not yet come, but as rightly being said by Mr. Dey, we are fighting with the preliminary problems. If we see the aluminum die casting industry, we are not given leave apart the quality of power, but even the continuity or availability of power is a big question. Now, when we say...
Yeah, what I wanted to ask was, when we convert this carbon footprint into money terms, when people are putting a carbon tax, then it starts hurting us. So you said that we are not at that table. Do you
No,
see
not
it
that
coming?
way.
Okay.
We are not at this stage.
Okay. Mr. Agarwal?
This is actually an interesting question because, anyways, to first answer, no, we have not got any demand so far for supplying products or exporting products as per the ASI certification. But having said that, we certainly do receive a lot of requests to supply products and issue a LEED certification, right? So, for example, if you're supplying to whether it's a private building or a government building, most of them today are LEED Platinum or LEED Gold or LEED Silver certified, and we repeatedly get requests to issue LEED certification. However, this is this is in India. So to issue a LEED certification, you have to have, I think, 5% of post-consumer recycled content and 10% of post-industrial recycled content in your product. So the customers demand LEED certification, but at the same time, the customers don't allow us to use recycled material, right? So this is the challenge that we face as manufacturers, that how do I issue LEED certification when you yourself are saying that all my billets, all my ingot, or all my raw material should be only from 100% virgin material, right? And as a result, what we have done to increase awareness in the industry, I think we might be the only Indian aluminum extrusion company. From the year 2018, we have denied submitting LEED certification because it's a lie, right? How can I submit LEED certification when I'm not using recycled content? Because I'm not being allowed to use recycled content, not that I don't want to. So now we are working with, most of the panel members today are also part of various other associations, and I have met with them, whether it's ISRI or whether it's, by Alex or AAI. And, the government has recently launched this draft national non-ferrous recycling policy last April. And we are also working with various CII, think tanks and BIS groups on, how do we set up multiple recycling, small MSME recycling companies throughout India, so that we start getting good source of high quality recycled material. So I think, that is something the industry as a whole needs to come together for. Just the last comment on this topic is, as we were talking about certifications, we do get demand for GRIHA, which is your, GRIHA, the greenhouse certifications, and the IGBC for projects in India. So we are getting demand for GRIHA, IGBC, and LEED. And LEED we have stopped issuing since FY18 because we are not being allowed to use recycled content. So
interesting to see that again you are not actually making use of recycled material, but getting certification as a way of ensuring that your products do meet the customer expectation. I remember the interesting discussion that we had some months back, that with the extent of recycle that is going up and recycled material being available, and as Mr. Chand said, the pressure on moving towards circular economy is going up. It was said that if we see recycle today generally on a small to medium scale, and it is not there are no very large scale recyclers. But if India puts the proper effort behind putting recycle plants, then the second largest source of aluminium, second largest source of pure aluminium will be a recycle refinery, as it is called, a recycle plant. We have aluminium plants, primary aluminium plants of say 360,000 or 500,000 or even 720,000 already coming up. But recycle has the potential to have a single location, large aluminium generation. Now, I wanted to know from the technology people, Dr. Vilas and JNRDC, what is the status of recycle in India, and are there inputs in terms of technology that can make recycle as a big important resource? Vilas?
Yeah, I think really speaking, the technology availability or technology preparedness for large scale single plant like what you are emphasizing is still in formation. I'm not very sure कि we are ready for the technology which can refine the scrap coming from different sources and deliver the best requirements as per the industry or BSI standards. I think the problem is not only the refining, problem is one step more. We have organized scrap collection, grading, and standardizing system available? Because like if you see the ferrous part, non-ferrous, many industries, they have very structured graded scraps available. I'm not very sure whether we have reached to that level in aluminum. So that part will be very, very critical. And to means I want to add one more point as for this ASI is concerned, which was your question. See, it is going to come, whether we are asked today or we are not asked, but it is going to come in one form or another, because you have seen now there is a movement in LME for green aluminum premium.
Right.
There are LSEs, there's North Cedro is also working on it. Rusal has, so there are slowly, the lobby has already come with a critical mass that they will start demanding, and it will not be like a technology of inert anode, but even recycling. If you see the NOS has their Hydro has their own recycle grade aluminum. So these two
You are right.
initiatives, like with new technology, which will reduce the energy. I agree with Mr. Day that we cannot escape from coal or fuel-based coal-fired power, but it is also necessary that we are taking much broader view that how can we reduce the energy at different sections, and also go for these initiatives where we have better recycling and more structured way of recycling, closed loop and both the open loop. So that is what I see. But technology preparedness, right from collection to deliver the best recycled ingots or billets for the downstream industry, it is still work in progress as far as India is concerned.
Right. Actually, I had one observation that no, we don't have a structured collection and sorting system in India, because aluminium usage in India is still not at the global level. And if you look at the past, aluminium consumption was so low that most of the aluminium that has been used in India by people maybe 15, 20 years back is still very much in use. If you look at the life cycle of various aluminium products, the biggest is, of course, electrical cables. Electrical cables, when people shifted to aluminium, those are still in use. If you look at automobiles, in automobiles, probably, I actually will come to that a bit later, but in automobiles also, the cycle time of lifetime of automobile in India is more than 15 to 20 years. And therefore, nothing gets recycled really. It gets resold rather than getting recycled.
Yeah, our per capita consumption is so low that we don't have surplus metal available as a scrap.
Exactly.
So that is
exactly.
so we have to have a primary metal as a major source, because
Probably,
we have not reached to European standards where there is a lot of surplus available
exactly.
per capita.
Yeah. In that context, Dr. Chauhan, one thing that is going to help aluminum industry a lot is the new automobile policy, which has actually said that it has defined the age of the vehicle, and under certain conditions, the age of the vehicle has been decided as 15 years, or there are certain concessions given. But soon we will start having materials getting recycled from various parts of the automobile industry, whether it is cars, trucks, two-wheelers, and other forms. Now that is going to become a big source for recycled material. Now we may have some components which are aluminium. Do we have that? The car policy is ready, and from next year, actually, cars which are more than 15 years, the public domain cars are going to get recycled. They are going to get scrapped. Is the aluminum recycle industry ready to take it? and convert it into something which is reusable aluminum for the secondary processes? You have some views on that, or any of you have some views on that?
Well, um, so with regard to specific question on this scrappage policy by Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, where the vehicle will be scrapped and there will be some sort of scrap processing unit, and the earlier speakers, my colleagues who talked about the um, processing centers, collection centers, and the scrap generation within the country and so on. So I would like to put some collective views on all these opinions of my colleagues as well. So coming back to your question, like today the recycled aluminium, what we produce in the country, maybe around 1.4 million ton. Out of this 4 million ton, 70% aluminium goes into the automobile sector, the castings and various parts. And all our recycling industry is very well equipped with the equipments and the facilities to handle the specifically automobile grade scrap or the castings, because you will see that our like Mr. Kulkarni from the Puja Castings, they are supplying to the OEMs, and OEMs are not just any ordinary fellow. They are the international OEMs, say it Hyundai or Honda or any big names even you take. So they are relying on the Indian casting industry on their quality, and they are able to at least supply the required quality for the Indian OEMs. So if any scrap processing center comes where you segregate the material, be it aluminium or copper or steel and other parts or plastics as well. So Indian aluminium industry is, the casting industry is very well accept such material, and in fact as far as I understand, there is one company named Zero Recycling, CERO, Zero Recycling, that is a joint venture with MMTC, Government of India, and the Mahindra and Mahindra Group joint venture that accepts the end of life vehicle, end of life appliances, aluminium products, and they process, segregate, and auction it to the recycling industry. And coming back to Mr. Agrawal's, Rajat Agrawal's one concern, specific concern regarding the some certifications or your own ASI certification and the sustainability issue. As our institute, our research center is under Ministry of Mines, and the aluminium related policy decisions and all these things are taken care by Ministry of Mines, and Ministry of Mines assigns some specific tasks to JNARDDC. One specific task is something like educating the aluminium fraternity about this resource efficiency and circular economy. We have been conducting the training programs, workshops, although it got affected because of this pandemic situation. So that is what is the focus from the government side that we have to educate the fraternity about this resource efficiency, circular economy, environmental things, and all those things. And one of the recent development, Mr. Agarwal perhaps quoted that it is the non-ferrous metal recycling framework 2020. So I would like to use this forum to share one news that Jawaharlal Nehru Aluminium Research Development Design Center, that is JNARDDC, of course, is for the time being nominated to work as a metal recycling authority. Till the time the formal process, through the formal process, the actual metal recycling authority is notified by Government of India. We will be doing all the work as metal recycling authority, except the statutory functions which can actually control the regulations and all those things. But we are not able to do that part. Ministry will take care of it. So rest all technical guidelines, technical suggestions will be done in this, which are already mentioned in the non-ferrous metal recycling framework. So we had recent discussions with the Ministry of Mines, where we were advised or suggested to come up with some kind of certification system for the recycled aluminium. Number one, like the NOSC Hydro uses 75R for their one of the recycled products, some kind of a branding mechanism for the recycled product. And secondly, ministry's interest is to push some percentage of recycled content in the product which are primarily manufactured using primary aluminium is on date. So some percentage of recycled aluminium will be used. So that will be taken up. All the drafting work is going on. We are working on the various aspects of these requirements, and we are also going to conduct the stakeholders meet. We'll talk to the concerned. We'll listen to Mr. Agarwal in more details. What are their requirements for the certifications and all those things, so that ministry is thinking that we can make that even the products which are preferably manufactured from the primary aluminium can have certain percentage of recycled aluminium. Because if you see, sir, like as I mentioned, this pandemic has triggered many cross-border conflicts. So one of the issue, this is the recent publication on the internet, you will come across. European Union introduced carbon border adjustment mechanism, that carbon taxing and all those things. So of course we will be able to do business within our country. That is not an issue. But when it comes to the international trade, we will have to pay for our high carbon footprint. That is for sure. And second thing is like the sustainability is in the it is one of the core program of the Government of India. So we are taking efforts. We'll also try to streamline these requirements through our metal recycling authority related activities, so that the overall recycling industry specifically is benefited. And coming back to one of the specific information, it is published by the European Union along with the MSME and one more agency is there, that mentions that 70% of the Indian the pollution in India is contributed by the MSME or the small medium sectors. The reason being, they are not able to afford the equipment, the technology to minimize their pollution levels or the energy consumption levels. So all these things are being noticed, getting addressed, and in near future we hope that all these technological or all these issues will be resolved, and we will be a greener aluminum producer country. Thank you so much.
Thank you. See, what I see is Ministry of Transportation, Government of India has been very proactive in terms of making these policies. And it is one case where lot of material will be available for recycle. As years go by, more and more aluminum will be available through this recycle. And therefore, as an industry, we'll have to be ready with the technology to make the best use of this material. Now, today people are insisting on primary aluminum, that you must not put in recycle component, because there are certain issues they face with the recycle aluminum. Upgrading our recycling technology so that the material which comes from recycle plant is as good as the primary aluminum. That is the challenge. And if we can meet that, then we'll have a good business opportunity that is available. So that brings me to the last question of the panel, and I will really like to get views from all of you on that, which is related to China. China being bad mouthed or bad named because of the pandemic has actually given us an opportunity, and to make product, to make not only aluminum components, but even aluminum or the technology supply to aluminum industry. What all we have been getting from China, can we do it in India? The Atmanirbhar theme that the Prime Minister has floated also gives us a similar opportunity. Now, what are the business opportunity, technology opportunity that you see coming to our industry because of this opportunity? That is, see, the entire world is looking at an alternative to China. We must have an option to China. We cannot have total dependence on China for all manufactured products. That realization has come very strongly. How do we, as aluminum industry, do a greenfield exercise, a new exercise to see what all we can make to challenge China and make a second manufactured material supplier to the world? So, in your work areas or beyond your work areas, but related to aluminum, do you see opportunities? I can tell you from my experience that other industries like FMCG, like chemicals, they have already set up a system to identify what can I manufacture, what today we are getting, or last few years we have been getting from China, and then convert it into a formidable business, a feasible business with government policy. If we do it for the aluminum industry, it will be a big contribution by this conference to the industry. So some thoughts on what do you see as things, businesses which are currently sourced from China, and what we can do for the country. Over to all of you. Anybody just raise hand and answer.
I will just answer in brief. In fact, this has given a good opportunity to India. It has come in a platter, I would say. And primary aluminum industry is very well placed because we have sufficient bauxite. One of the reasons we are in a difficult position is coal-based energy. So if energy scenario which can be coupled with renewable energy and supply of energy in a way where it can be less burdened with carbon tax or carbon footprint, primary aluminum is well poised to take this opportunity, and we will move forward as the demand arises. As you see, we are now surplus. We can produce 4.1 million ton, and we don't have that level of consumption, and we around 40% we export also. Aluminum is exported to outside. And finished goods is also imported mainly from outside Malaysia, Vietnam, and other for consumption pattern. That market also available. Now things remain where we are lagging. We are exporting primary metal and importing value-added material. Why? Because there is no coordination and collaboration between the tertiary, secondary, and primary aluminum manufacturer, along with the R&D institutes and product design development organizations. So that product development design organization is nowhere linked in our industry. Suppose if you, I'll just give an example to explain you. Apparel industry. हम लोग जब young थे दर्जी का था. अभी देखिए apparel industry has grown in leaps and bounds. And दर्जी का दुकान ढूंढना मुश्किल हो रहा है. Because the fashion design institute has spearheaded and the manufacturer has got into a new mode apparel industry, which was nowhere there maybe 15-20 years ago. It was only buying cloth and making stitches and wearing. But now the apparel industry is a big industry and we are also exporting. So in similar manner, design institutes should come in product development of day-to-day use of aluminium. Because everyone uses the aluminium. It is now 2.5 kg only. Global average is 11 kg. And you see Korea is above 44 kg. So the opportunity is high, and China going down, India is the best placed location for catching that opportunity.
Yeah.
But I will, through this medium, will request, please provide the ecosystem, policy framework, and hand-holding without barriers. Let us remove barriers.
Are there concrete products that you see, concrete businesses that you see that this is something, one product area which is currently sourced from China, and we can probably go ahead with putting the resources behind either Mr. Agarwal or Mr. Kulkarni? Do you see something that is waiting for us to be taken over from China?
Mr. Kulkarni, if we see this pandemic, or maybe the bad name which China has got, has given us the heaven of opportunities. Now, being we are very small as such, but then we have got so many inquiries of from outside countries and from within the sourcing companies which are wanting to source outside. Now, only thing what happens basically, if we see that we are not able to compete, is because of the primary aluminum rates. Now, all said and done, that India has, or many of our Indian OEM primary aluminum manufacturers have got the cost is minimum in the world. But then all the prices what we see, they are all 100% tallied with the LME.
Right.
Now, if we see, if I have to purchase from my local manufacturer of primary metal, I have no advantage, because it is as good as what is I'm getting it from outside. Now the question is that when that will happen, it is only that time we can think of really being competitive. And as I earlier told, unless and until our industry gear up to the level of competing in quality earlier, because that is going to be the automation quality.
I just, Dr. Nandi had something to say on the China experience. So can we get Dr. Nandi to talk?
Yes, I am here only.
Yeah.
Please put me on this thing. Start video. Okay. We would like to tell one of the recent experience with Chinese company. Actually, we are setting up on a small ATH plant of 200,000 tons per annum capacity in Sierra Leone. And based on the experience of Chinese, we selected GAMI as one of the technology supplier and prepared the feasibility report. You will not believe it was a 6 months project, and it took almost 1 year for us to get the actual feasibility report from them. It is very difficult to have conversation and discussions with them. And whatever feasibility report is prepared, I feel we Indians can prepare far better feasibility report. It is the time for India to join hands with knowledgeable people, R&D center, and have our own technology. Now, for example, in India, we are having 7 or 8 alumina refineries are working. There's small, big, medium size. We can have our own technology. Why we should go to GAMI? Why we should go to Rio Tinto Alcan? Why we should go to the big technology supplier? We can have our own technology within this country. And my experience was very bad with working with GAMI. And although we have complete feasibility report, and we have decided not to go to Chinese for any more work. All detail engineering, all the work, basic detail engineering and EPC, everything will be done by the Indian company. So this is what my experience of working with Chinese R&D and Chinese technology suppliers. In each of these fields, we can do our own technology and our own experience we can work. So just this is what my view. And if anybody else wants to speak anything.
Very interesting observation. Very interesting observation. It's along with the policy decisions and the strategic support from government, plus what Dr. Gokhale mentioned as the infrastructure for aluminium utilization in the right places, plus focus on Atmanirbhar. It is not impossible to start to duplicate China here. We don't really have to go to China for everything. Now, anybody else wants to comment anything from the panel on this particular matter?
I think Dr. Nandi has rightly said we need our own technologies, because it is not only smelting technology or aluminum processing, but we need technology even for the equipment. If you see the Chinese plants, they are not buying imported machines. They have their own ecosystem and the scale. Second problem is compete with China is we need to have a scale of their capacity. Otherwise, they will be always lowest cost. And also now, if you see last 5 years, they are all the best quality. So it is a lethal combination, that low cost and better quality. And that they are achieving by reducing the cost of importing capital equipment. They have their own entire ecosystem. I'm not sure whether we will have time to develop the entire ecosystem like China, because it has taken 30 years or more with complete government support. But what is important for us, like Mr. Dey is saying, we need to work together, because we don't have time. And I think India has demonstrated, like without landline at each house, we have now smartphone in each house. So we can leapfrog directly from landline to 5G technology. Similarly, we have to do in aluminium also. We cannot go on developing each and every step. We have to jump, work together, and technology has to be the key part. Because if you want to supply globally today, because they are constrained by China, but tomorrow when the economy and supply chain smoothen down, all our customers are going to ask for highly stringent quality requirement. And they will achieve only if we have not only the technology, but even people. Are we really having good expert engineers? I don't see metallurgists available even in IITs who has a very good understanding of aluminium. So it is like these are the key fundamental requirements. Like we need a good manpower, we need to collaborate, and we have to move faster in large scale. We cannot go on doing linear progression. We have to leapfrog and go directly for green aluminum. Yeah.
In fact,
that is what I.
I agree with Vilas. It is a complete system, including equipments and everything. Actually, we hired GAMI to get the name of major equipment supplier for alumina plant. So that's what now we are going to do. Only for the equipment supply side, India is still weak, and we have to have that ecosystem because they make large number of equipment. For example, there is a filter company, Xinjiang Filter. I think you must, everybody knows. They supply filters all over the world. And once I visited their plant, there is like 4 football grounds, their filter company is located. And they are supplying the same filter which Germans are supplying at $3 million. They are supplying it almost less than $1 million. So this is what they have capability of supplying very cheap equipment because of the large production. But certainly, we cannot completely ignore Chinese equipment supplier. If we have to set up plant, cheap plant, particularly outside India, we have to purchase Chinese equipment, and only accessory equipments can be purchased from India. So I understand this thing, and what Vilas has told very correctly, we have to leapfrog. We have to take experience of all the country, and we have to have our own ecosystem for this. Thank you.
In fact, thank you. In fact, as we started, the pandemic and the climate change, the two major threats that had shaken up the entire world over the last couple of years, have actually opened up for the Indian aluminum industry the best of times to leapfrog, to develop a formidable option for China and to go further. I always see aluminum business as a proverbial elephant. It has so many aspects, starting from mining, the process industry, and the downstream. And it has many other aspects in terms of environment, sustainability, new product development, and all that. Today, we were fortunate to get experts from various aspects of aluminum industry as the panelists and discuss the way India can build the industry to take advantage of the future. We will close at this point. On my own behalf and on behalf of Metal World, I thank all the panelists for you joining the discussion, and thank you. So I hand over to Mr. Chandekar.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chandekar?
Hello.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks everybody, and thank you, Mr. Kulkarni, for conducting this session. It was a very, very interesting session, and we really discussed a lot of aspects related to the future of Indian aluminum industry. And this brings us to the end of this session. And we will be back at around 1:30. Now we have exceeded the time by 15 minutes, so we may be back by 1:35 or 1:40 for our first business session. Thank you very much. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.